ran into this block, this block because the way a 2 and a 3-year-old looks at grief, of course, is different than how we look at grief. And I had to try to figure out how could I help them. But I realized that I need to get more personal with them and to try to meet where they were at. Even videotaped it when he did, and they were just like amazed at, they didn't even really see it as grief. Sing, dance, so it's the different ways that you release the stress.
Welcome back to another episode of Breakthrough Moments with Sandy, the place where people share the real stories behind their biggest breakthroughs. Every episode is a heart to heart about life, faith, business, grief, healing, and everything else in between. Nothing polished, nothing perfect, just honest moments that have shaped who we are today. So I'm your host, Sandy Chinagure, and I love to create a space where women feel seen, supported, and inspired to rise again. So grab yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and let's dive into today's breakthrough moments. So today I've got the lovely Lois Goudeau. Let's welcome Lois to today's breakthrough moments. Welcome, Lois.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm looking forward to having this discussion with you. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's start at the beginning. Can you share a little bit about yourself and how you got to be where you are today? How you got to be the Lois that we know today?
Okay. Well, I'm not going to share you all the way back to where how did I get to today because it will be such a long story. But I'll
Oh,
start
yeah.
with me being a licensed clinical professional counselor. Before I became a counselor, I was a special ed teacher for 12 years. And so I've always been in a space of wanting to help individuals. But how I got to where I am today, like I said, I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor. And
Mhm.
within my practice, I noticed that I was dealing with a lot of people that had blended family issues. And because they had blended family issues, I was able to connect because I myself have been in a blended family. Oh, now it's been about 28, 29 years, maybe even a little longer. And so because I was able to connect with them, I realized that what they needed was tools that could really speak to their lived experience. And so that pushed me to write a book. This is my first time being an author. So I wrote the book, Take a Deep Breath, Relax, because you've got this. And that's some of the nuggets that I felt that they would need to help them in their blended family journey. And so that book, it talked about situations that they would experience, and it also had journal prompts to help them to deal with what they're going through and then have questions about how I could infuse what I'm going to help me with my blended family. And because I'm a Christian, it also had a scripture reference that would help them. So that's when I became an author and kind of connected my business to that personal side. Then a little bit later, I have some grandchildren. And so their grandmother passed. And when she passed, one was 2 and the other was 3. And so I noticed that they were dealing with a lot of emotional issues. And so I was trying to find some books out there that would really help them on this journey of grief. And I couldn't really find a book. And so once again, I created a book. It's called Finding Henry's Smile, and it's to help children that are dealing with grief. But I didn't want the book to just be about grief because that would be kind of a downer. So I wrote a
Mhm.
book to deal with different types of grief, whether they were dealing with grief of, leaving their home, or maybe the grief of a divorce of a family, or even
Mhm.
they had to leave school, they had a new teacher. So that's a really good book. And as a matter of fact, this year it became an award-winning book. I received an award for that book because it really does speak to things that children are going through. And so
Well
that
done.
am now in my counseling. I'm realizing that I needed to go beyond just the counseling and help with that emotional part with my clients. And so it's more of a holistic healing approach that I've taken now.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. So looking back, Lois, looking back at your life, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face in your life, and how did you navigate through all that?
So I don't think it was like a single event that was a bigger challenge for me. I think it was more
Mm-hmm.
like a realization that we as individuals, we have like layers. We have layers of stress, and we also have layers of loss. And we also have to realize that sometimes we get overwhelmed. And so when I look at that, even with myself, realizing that we need tools that can help meet us right where we are instead of just trying to fix something, to lean in and see how can I make it better. Because as a therapist, that's one of the things I do. Even with my clients, it's like, what can I do to be a better therapist, and what can I do to make life better for them? So like I said, it's not so much of a challenge but more of a realization that I need to be able to take on the challenge of helping them to move forward. And so, like I said earlier, I'm looking at more of a holistic approach. And when I say holistic, I'm looking at whole
Mm-hmm.
person, because counseling sometimes
Okay.
can be like a narrow view, just a one dimensional. But when I say holistic, I'm looking at the whole person, looking at the challenges that they have, not just with the mental health, but what's going on with them physically, what's going on with them emotionally, what's going on with them behaviorally. And so because of that, now I'm back in school once again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on my doctorate in behavioral health because I'm trying to see how can I help them even more and not just stay at one level with them.
All right. Okay. Okay. Cool. You mentioned something about your grandchildren,
Hmm.
um, them losing their, is it grandmother? Is it
Hmm.
the grandma?
Yes.
How did you really offer this support that they needed during that time?
I have a degree in early childhood. So I thought I understood and I knew where they were coming from and knew how to help them. But I ran into this block, this block because the way a 2 and a 3-year-old looks at grief, of course, is different than how we
Yeah.
look at grief. And I had
Mm-hmm.
to try to figure out how could I help them. And so with their
Yeah.
dad, I was trying to, offer resources because there were some books that I had read before that I thought it could be geared toward helping them with the grief and being able to sit there and to talk with them and, doing play therapy with them because I used to do play therapy also. But I realized that I need to get more personal with them and to try to
Yeah.
meet where they were at. And so really that's how the book came about, trying to get them to see grief because it's a complex emotion. Grief is a complex emotion even for adults. And it's like
It
a
is.
roller
Yeah.
coaster. Sometimes you'll be at one place and you think everything's going fine, and all of a sudden, like a roller coaster, it dips, and you're back in that same mindset of or that same emotion of missing that person. So with them, I try to get on their level and see how can I really help them to
Mm-hmm.
understand what grief is, and that's how the book
Yeah.
came about. Trying to use characters to try to help them to see the grief, and so I actually had my son-in-law read the book to them
Mm-hmm.
to
All
see
right. Okay.
would it really help them, because I figured if it would help them, it could help other kids. And he even videotaped it when he did, and they were just like amazed at they didn't even really see it as grief. They saw it as like a
Oh.
transition, and they even, they'll say things like, Grandma, she's up in heaven, she's looking down at us because
Mm-hmm.
of the way the book is situated. It helps them see that grief is an emotion versus so and to understand that through this loss you can be happy again. You can think about the memories that you had from them. So, that's how I dealt with them with the grief.
All right. So, other than grief, is there anything else that you do in your own career besides helping people who are going through grief? Is there anything else?
Yeah, that was just, from that one thing that I saw that some of the clients were dealing with. But yeah, besides the grief, I work with the EAP program is called Employee Assistance Program. And when the clients come into, well, now I do everything virtual. When they come to me, we can be dealing with divorce. We can be dealing with anxiety, depression, job stress,
Mm,
of course,
mm,
grief seems to be one of, especially in this climate that we're in now, it seems to be a
yes.
big thrust to what people are dealing with because grief is this umbrella of loss and the loss of the job that a lot of people are dealing with, losing their job. And so it could be like homes. And so that umbrella of grief is there. But what I've really wanted to really kind of talk about is
Hmm.
because of the layers that I talked about earlier, that I'm seeing people need to that they have the different layers.
Yeah.
And yeah, they come
Hmm.
to counseling, and counseling is good, but they needed something more consistent. They needed something to help them outside of counseling. And so that's where the personal wellness came in. And so once again, one of the things that as a way for me to help clients is that I use my books as a stepping stone for holistic healing and the
Mm-hmm.
healing and so for the holistic healing. So I created another book and it's called Holding Space for Yourself. And that's a
All right.
60-day journal prompt that for
Mm-hmm.
inner. And what I like about that book is it helps my clients to take their time. It helps them to not feel like they have to be rushed. And because finding space for yourself, it simply means that you don't have any pressure on yourself and that you're tuning in and honoring your own emotions at your own space and at your own time. And so this
Mm-hmm.
journal is it's unique because, of course, it was created by me, a therapist, and it has in the book it has different ways to challenge those anxiety and those stress. And so, from out of this book, developed this
Mm-hmm.
program. It's called Uniquely You, which is an 8-week personal wellness program. And so it's for individuals that want to go beyond just the counseling, that want to learn how to tune into their personal wellness. I like to think about it, you know, how like the beginning of the year, because we're getting close to the beginning of the year, and people make
Mm-hmm.
all commitments that I'm going to get better physically. So they join a health club. And
Yeah.
so in the health club, they may have a coach that helps them walk through what they need in order to become physically fit. So I kind of liken it to the personal wellness program is I would be walking them through this 8-week program, helping them to become well, physically well, having their emotional wellness.
All right. That sounds really interesting and
Mhm.
very helpful.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful. So, can you elaborate more on wellness for my audiences, for those who are not really fully aware of what you mean when you're talking about wellness?
Hmm.
What does that look like? Like when you're working with your clients and everything, the people that you're helping, what does wellness actually look like?
Well, when we talk about there's like 7 dimensions to wellness, and I'm not gonna go through all of them because we're talking about it's really like balancing your life. There's like financial, there's physical, there's even spiritual, and then there's the emotional wellness piece, and that's really understanding your emotions and understanding your values, your moods. Learning how to take care of yourself consistently so you won't get to the place that you're stressed out that you need medical
Mm-hmm.
care. And so it's really just
Mm-hmm.
noticing that one of the things that I help my clients, I talk about what's called the stress bucket because we're
Mm-hmm.
all born with that. And that's the degree of stress
Yeah.
that you can actually be able to take. And for some people, and you may see this sometimes, you're like, wow, that person can take a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stress. And then some people's
Yeah,
like, wow, they can't
that's
take any.
true.
So we all
Mm-hmm.
are born with a level of stress that we call the stress bucket. And if you can visualize the bucket on each side, there are like little knobs. And for some people, when they're dealing with stress, they may go to the one knob and they may self medicate. To self medicate may be substance abuse, alcoholism. So they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
medicate that, reduce that stress. But the problem with that is when they do that, they're just putting that stress right back in the bucket. So now let's just say if they self-medicated, now they're drinking a lot of alcohol. Now they become an alcoholic. Now that's another problem that they create. So that's back in that stress bucket. But then
Yeah.
on the other side of the bucket, there's a knob that you would release that would release your stress in a holistic way. Like it may be counseling. It may be
Mm-hmm.
the wellness that I'm talking about, like physical fitness. Some people may meditate, yoga. Some
Yeah.
people may sing, dance. So it's the different ways that you release the stress. So that's what I mean by emotional wellness, ways to learn how to release your stress. Also, you need to understand what are my stress triggers because some
Yeah.
people don't know what causes the stress in my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I say the emotional wellness, I would be looking at all of that in conjunction with, creating an individual plan for them. So we're
Mm-hmm.
understanding the patterns for your stress. And then we're understanding what are things that help me reduce my stress. So it might be calming techniques. So, you see a lot of apps on TV that you can buy, calming apps. That's a way to
Mm-hmm.
relieve stress. And so that's what I mean by the wellness is to be able to balance your life in spite of the stress that you're going to have.
That's really interesting. Really, really interesting. What are some of the worst case scenarios without obviously going too personal? that you have come across in your career? People who are dealing with grief and are really finding it hard, and even though they're going through counseling, they're really finding it hard to deal with that grief. What has been the worst case scenarios, and how do you have to deal with those? Because I want to believe that it's not everyone
Mhm.
who can easily adapt, and even going through counseling, it takes time for some people to understand the process and to allow the process to play out. In those kind of scenarios, how do you maneuver that?
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about people that don't follow that follow the suggestion that I give. Well,
Thank
and
you.
you're talking about specifically grief. One of the things that I
Mm-hmm.
tell my clients is that when someone passes, you're dealing with so many emotions to not make decisions right away because we
Yeah.
want to get rid of this ache that we're feeling because when someone dies, you have to deal with the pain of the loss. And so that's one of the things that you have to go through when you talk about the process. The process is you have to deal with the pain of the loss. A lot of people don't want to deal with the pain of the loss. So what they do is they'll jump into maybe another relationship. Or if we're talking about grief, and as far as they've lost maybe a home, they'll jump and get another apartment. And it's not really conducive to what they really need. It may just be just at the spare of the moment, they'll just jump and do something. So what I tell people
Mm-hmm.
that when you have specifically the loss of a person, wait at
Mm-hmm.
least 6 to 9 months before you start making significant changes. And so you said worst case scenario is I did have a client that would not listen because the
Mm-hmm.
person was hurting so bad that they jumped into a relationship. Not only did they jump into a relationship, but they got married. And then they realized after they got married, oops, I made a mistake. And so, but now they're married. And so now they were trying to navigate a new relationship, which they should have waited for and went through the process of dating. Because when we date, there's different
Yeah.
levels to dating to see if I go to that next level with that person, if I go to that next level. Well, they met the person, just jumped past all those levels and they got married to the person while they were trying to deal with grief. And it was just a mess trying to still deal with the grief and deal with a new relationship that they possibly maybe shouldn't have gotten into because they really didn't know the person. But what they were trying to do is suppress those emotional hurts that they were having. And so that's the biggest thing that I've seen with grief is that people they want to hurry up and move past it, but grief is a journey. And it's a journey for
Yeah.
each one of us. And there's nothing I could say that's going to stop you from hurting because the closer you
Yeah.
are to that person, the more you're going to feel it. And so, in answer to your question, one of the things that I've seen is when people want to rush this process, and you can't rush it. You have to just be able to go through it. And now there are
Mm-hmm.
tools that can help it become easier because you never
Mm-hmm.
get over someone. Like some people say, oh,
Yeah.
you're over it. No, you just learn how to live through each day with the loss of that person.
And what advice would you give people who are out there who are going through a form of grief? It could be a loss of a loved one, a relationship. What advice would you give them?
Okay. I would say because I think the wellness piece needs to be put in there also because
Yeah.
sometimes when people are grieving, they tend to not take care of themselves. Tend
Mm-hmm.
to just want to just do nothing. But what I tell them is to
Yeah.
listen to your body. What is your body telling you that it needs? Because
Mm-hmm.
counseling can help you heal, but wellness helps you stay centered so that you're not constantly pouring from an empty cup. And so one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I would tell them is that growth, it's not pretty. That's what you said in the beginning of your broadcast about things are not pretty
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
perfect, but you need to be honest about what you're going through and to take
Mm-hmm.
those small steps. And so maybe one day your body may be telling you, I don't want to go to work today. And so then take
Yeah.
a sick day. There's nothing saying that you can't take a sick day. That's what they're there for. Your body may be saying to you, I'm not ready to um, change this room. I'm not ready to get rid of stuff. And so just leave it there. Close the door if you have to. So just to really listen to what your body is saying, because your body will let you know where you're at. Because sometimes some cultures, I know
Yeah.
our culture has always been taught that you're strong, just push
Yeah.
past, but don't push past those things. Stop and honor where you're at and give yourself that grace and say, well, where am I and what do I feel today? And I'm not saying, and especially when you're talking about grief, sometimes people don't want to do anything. They just want to stay, alone. But, when you actually go out, that's a way of helping relieve your stress. Being around people helps relieve stress. I would tell them that you need a support system. You need people
Mhm.
that can understand where you're at. And I like
Mhm.
um, this one cartoon I see with Winnie the Pooh, and I think it's Piglet.
Mhm.
And Piglet is
Mhm.
saying, he's stressed out or he doesn't know what's going on. And so Pooh doesn't know what to say to him. And so he says that, I'll just sit here and I'll just be your friend. And so sometimes we just need to be around people that's just going to support us emotionally and just be there for
Yeah.
us.
I'm glad you answered that because that was going to be my next question. Because you had mentioned that people need to be able to listen to their bodies. If your body's telling you you need to rest or stay in bed, you need to
Mhm.
do likewise. How about in the case of people who, when they're going through something, they're literally just staying in bed on days
Yeah.
on and just close up from everybody else?
Mhm.
What is
So,
your advice for those kind of people? How can they motivate themselves to get out of bed and just continue with their lives?
well, if they're, pulling back from life, then there probably are having major depression. So yeah, they would need some intervention, medical intervention, if it interferes with your daily living and you don't want to do anything. So when they're at that level, they're going to need some intervention if they're at that level. But one of the things that even for you and even for me, what motivates us to do something every day is really goals.
Mm-hmm.
We have to
Mm.
have a goal. We have to have some reason that pushes us
Yeah.
internally, that pushes us to do what we do. Like for
Mm-hmm.
us, we know we have to pay our bills. So that's what
Yeah.
makes us even go to work. Sometimes we don't even want to go to work, but we know those bills need to be paid. And so
Yeah.
that motivates us. For some of us, we have children. I know when my
Mm-hmm.
children were younger, when I didn't feel like getting out of the bed, I would look over there and they'd be like, Mom, I'm hungry. Or Mom, I need this. So that motivates. So you need something that's going to motivate. And so that's what'll get you past those situations where you just want to just sit and do nothing. And that's where that counseling piece will come in. But again, I
Mm-hmm.
just keep pushing about the wellness, because wellness, it
Yeah.
helps you to understand your stress patterns. It helps you to
Yeah.
understand, well, why don't I want to do this? What's going on? And so once I
Yeah.
understand my stress patterns and what's causing this, then I can be able to challenge it. Then I can be able to conquer it. Then I can be able to do something about it. So wellness is something that we don't talk enough about. I know my generation didn't talk enough about it. I know I'm looking
Yeah.
at
True.
the younger generation and they're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But as you
Yeah.
get older, you realize that what it took when you were younger and the things that you do when
Mm-hmm.
you're younger, you can't do them when you're older.
Mm-mm.
Unfortunately, you can't. So you really do need to focus and hone in on your wellness. You really
Mm-hmm.
absolutely do. And I'm not talking about wellness like you got to go to the doctor all the time, because when you understand your wellness and you strengthen your emotional resilience, you won't need to go to the doctor as much. Because a part of wellness would be exercising, would be moving. And when you go to the
Mm-hmm.
doctor, one of the things the doctors always
Yes.
talk about, well, at least for me, you say,
Medication.
well, you need to lose weight. How do you lose weight? You make sure you're eating
Mm-hmm.
properly and you make sure that you're exercising. All of that is wellness. So it's something that it's being talked about, but I don't know if we're embracing it as much as we should.
So, in short, I can say that what you're saying is this needs to be on everybody's to-do list.
Yes,
We
yes.
don't have to wait until things are going pear-shaped in our lives
Hmm.
before we can start thinking about wellness.
Right, right, right. And I'm a counselor, so of course I encourage counseling because, like I said earlier, some people they can do things on their own, and some people they
Yeah.
need a little more support. And so with counseling, that's that little more support. And even with the program that I was talking about, the personal wellness program, that's for people that need a little bit more support and helping you, because there's a saying that says when you do something for 30 days, it becomes a habit. And so that's why
Yeah.
I created the wellness program for 8 weeks, because we're talking about doing it for 2 months and it will become a part, it'll become a routine in your life. So yes, wellness is something that we all need to press into, because we need to especially certain races, they have a higher incident of diabetes, higher incident of heart attacks and high blood pressure. So we should be looking at wellness anyway. But
Mm.
I'm talking about not just for the physical, but that
Yeah.
emotional piece, because
Emotional.
sometimes we kind of overlook that, the layers of being overwhelmed, being stressed out. Now, there
Mm-hmm.
is normal anxiety, which is called eustress, because we all have it. Like if you went to a new place, you'd be a little nervous. That's eustress because
Yeah.
it's something different. But I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about that anxiety that, I have this anxiety and I have this fear and I don't
Yeah.
know where it's coming from, and then the symptom.
Mm-hmm.
So even understanding all of that. And now I'm going to go a little bit further now. For those that's
Mm-hmm.
going into menopause,
Yeah.
sometimes with
Yeah.
menopause, anxiety becomes one of the symptoms, and depression that one of the symptoms that comes with it. So again, when we're talking
Right.
about personal wellness, we're looking at it being a part of your everyday life because it's going to affect you. And every 10
Mm-hmm.
years we change. Every 10 years we change. And so we need to make sure that we're changing with that, but we're changing how we do things. We're changing how we even look at our emotions, how things are affecting
Mm-hmm.
us. Because the way you are when you're raising your kids is going to be totally
Yeah.
different once those kids get out of the house. And so
Right.
your body is changing. So that's what I wanted to just really emphasize is that
Mm.
we need to find a balance in our life. And one of the balance, like I said, there's 7 dimensions, but
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the emotional wellness piece because that's what's going to help us to stay healthy, not just emotionally, but physically also.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lois. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure my viewers are really gonna benefit from this conversation that we've had. You
Hmm.
know, highlighting on how much we need to really focus on our wellness and how that affects our health,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and our mental health.
Yes. And
Sorry, go
say
on.
health is so important.
And before we round off, I'm very curious on a percentage or on a scale of 1 to 10 between male and female, what is the ratio of men who come and see you versus women?
Yeah. Now, I've been doing this for 10 years. And when I first
Mm-hmm.
started, it was mostly women. I could say for every 10 women, I may have seen one man, one male. But now it's starting to pick up because men's health is something that's really starting to be talked about a lot. And then
Right.
I'm starting to really realize that, I need to look at my health too, because when strokes and heart attacks and all of that happens, it's not partial to just females.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
anybody. So I'm starting to get more males, which is good. I'm not at that 50-50 yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm starting to get more males. So I would say that before, when it was like for every 10 women I would see one male, I'm seeing now
Mm-hmm.
for every 10 women, I'm seeing at least 4 males. And so we're
Okay.
getting there, yeah. And because they're realizing that um like I said, that it's not a male or a female when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to mental health, but everyone needs to
Absolutely.
really look at their mental health. And so, but before we go, I just kind of wanted to give out some resources where people can kind of reach out. So for my
Yeah.
books on my author's website page, and it's www.loisgoudeauauthor.com, and that's where they can purchase the books. And it's at different places like Barnes and Nobles, there's Amazon, there's Ingram Spark. So there are different places where they can purchase them. And then I also have a YouTube channel. I don't know if the last time we talked, I had my YouTube
Yeah.
channel. And so I've
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of rebranded it because I really want to
All right.
into the wellness. So I've changed the
Yeah.
name to NuVisions Wellness Every Day. And so
All right.
starting the first of the year, I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
pressing more into having sort of like what you're doing, stories of people that have recognized their wellness and things that they're doing. Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I want to have wellness and I want to be better, but I just don't know where to start. So sometimes
Yeah.
people's stories can kind of help jumpstart us to where we need to be. And so, and also my email address is
Mm-hmm.
counselorscare54@gmail.com. If anyone, wants to have more conversations about it or even are interested in the the 8-week personal wellness program. And with the wellness program, I have a book called The Holding Space for Yourself that's a part of that package. So I'm just really excited about what the new year is going to bring.
Nice one. Nice, nice, nice. I'm excited for you as well. And congratulations on your new book, Lois.
Yes, yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for all the nuggets that you've shared with us today.
Uh-huh.
And for anyone who wants to grow in their wellness, if you've enjoyed the conversation that I've had with Lois today and you found it very useful and beneficial, and you want to know more about how you can take care of your wellness and all and everything else, do get in touch with Lois. And I'm going to put her details in the comment section. So make sure you check the comment section. So if you've enjoyed this conversation that we have had, make sure to like this video, share with a friend who needs it, and subscribe to this channel. So for now, we are checking out and do take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Sam.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.